The transfer portal is officially open. What does Syracuse need?
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome, everyone, into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And for Syracuse, the season we found out ended last night. No NIT appearance for Syracuse. The Orange decided it just wasn't for them, and it's time to focus on the transfer portal and this ever-changing college landscape of the transfer portal essentially being free agency. And who knows what's going to happen with the NIT, but we know that Syracuse is not going to be playing any more basketball this season. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. All right, everyone. So as I said, Syracuse declined the NIT appearance, and so they will not be playing any more basketball for this season, and that means the roster as we know it is about to change in all likelihood. So it's time to focus on the transfer portal and what Syracuse needs for next season to get actually into the real tournament instead of the NIT. By the way, this is now 3 straight years of Syracuse not making March Madness. That hasn't happened since the 70s, the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s. Not even to have a postseason appearance because Syracuse also just declined the NIT. So they got to get back to the tournament next season. It's tournament or bust next season. And later on in the week, I'm going to come out with my 2024-2025 wishes for the season next year, just early wishes. This is more of off-season targets and a wish list, so to speak. So what Syracuse needs, and what was a common theme in a lot of their losses this year: shooting, rebounding. Now, shooting comes from, just not having the greatest shooters on the planet. It can also stem from not having good enough floor spacing, not enough movement while on offense to create open shots. But really, they don't have a lot of great shooters, right? And the other one is rebounding. And that we know can stem from size. This team does not have a lot of size. It feels like every single person playing at their current position is smaller than their opponent. I mean, when you have Justin Taylor at 6'6" playing power forward and Malik Brown 6'8" playing center, that might be the smallest front court in the power six. You could check me on that, but I am convinced that has to be one of, if not the smallest starting front court in all of the power six. 6'6" Justin Taylor, 6'8" Malik Brown. So no wonder why this team wasn't the greatest rebounding team. And where did it cost them? Well, see, I don't look at team total rebounds per game. I'd rather look at rebounding margin. But for example, why Syracuse is not in the tournament this year? Well, one of them is they lost the rebounding margin by 21 in a close game against Georgia Tech. And Coach Autry said after the game, that's why they lost. That is flat out why they lost. It was the rebounding. They also lost it by 15 to Tennessee. And I know Tennessee is a 2 seed in the tournament right now. But, that was a close game. Towards the end of that game, it was close. And, of course, Tennessee pulled away, judging by the final score. And one of the reasons for that was rebounding, why Tennessee ultimately pulled that one out. They lost the rebounding margin by 23 to Gonzaga. The first time against UNC, they lost it by 23 as well. Or excuse me, against Gonzaga, they lost it by 20, 23 to UNC the first time. And then, what was one of the main reasons why Syracuse actually knocked off North Carolina that second time? Take a guess. Well, they didn't win the rebounding margin, but they kept it respectable. They only lost it by 8. And it helps that they also got hot from deep. But that just proves the point. If you lose the rebounding margin by 20 in any particular game, you are most likely going to lose. And so Syracuse in the portal has got to find a true center and or just a lot of size. They need bigger players. Bigger, more physical players. And shooting, right? I said shooting off the top. What were some of the games that shooting cost the Orange? Well, how about against Florida State? The game after the Quadir Copeland buzzer beater against Miami. The Orange went 1 for 14 from the three-point line. 1 for 14. And guys, I'm probably going to be missing a few games in here as to why they won or lost. They were 1 of 14 from 3 against Florida State. Against Clemson the first time, they were 7 of 23. And that was a close one in the Dome. And Georgia Tech again. They were 4 for 25 against Georgia Tech. So in that Georgia Tech game, they lost the rebounding margin by 21 and shot less than 20% from the three-point line. You're not going to win many games, even though Georgia Tech wasn't a great team. And of course, in the final game of the season, they go 6 of 19 from 3. So really, you know, I have a take where people don't love it because it sounds like it's kind of lazy, which is that they just need better players, right? They just need better players. But at the end of the day, if you're looking for what this team tangibly needs, I just gave you a whole list of games of how they lost. They need shooting, and they need size to fix the rebounding margin. Now, who are some players that can help fix that? Let's discuss it. This week's March Madness Bracket Highlight is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out, a team that's pushed it further than the rest. Just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs, these guys were able to take it to the next level. The Auburn Tigers can only be described as a Pathfinder. They've been thrilling to watch and have really created a lane for themselves after claiming the top spot in the SEC. As they knocked off the Florida Gators in the SEC Tournament Championship, they're set to make a run in the NCAA Tournament. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Amazon Fire TV is the place I get the top streaming apps and channels for movies like TV, like for watching Syracuse games. And I know they didn't make the NIT or they didn't accept the NIT bid, but, you know, there's always next season for this team. And hey, March Madness is also just around the corner coming up on Thursday. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels lets you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. The Locked On College Basketball Bracket Breakdown Show is now available on the Locked On College Basketball Podcasts. Experts Andy Patton and Isaac Shade will break down their brackets and discuss everything that you need to know to fill out a winning bracket and prepare for this year's NCAA tournament. Find the Locked On Bracket Breakdown now on the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back, everyone, into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer. Thank you for making us your first listen of every single day. Your team every day on the Locked On Podcast Network. We just discussed what Syracuse needs to address in the transfer portal, which is size and shooting. Preferably, if you can get both at the same time in one player, that is great. Now, it's important to note that they do have two outstanding freshmen coming in, one of which is a 5-star, and Donnie Freeman, who is listed as a 6'11 power forward. So that should help with size. And also Elijah Moore, who is a 2-guard right now, is a 4-star and profiles to be a very good shooter at the next level. So, hey, maybe that Syracuse, the freshman coming in, could really help this team with their needs. But at the same time, they are freshmen. And the transfer portal is, how should I say this? It's where it's at. That's how you build teams nowadays, it seems. You find guys in the transfer portal that can assess your needs. It's kind of like free agency in pro sports. This is where you find proven, experienced players, maybe guys looking to take a next step. And that's pretty much the theme for every one of these guys that I'm about to list. So we're going to start off with a true starting center / size, and who are a couple of players who can really address that. And I said this in the last show that I did. Justice Ajabo from Harvard is listed as 6'10". He is the Autry #1 transfer center right now. Or no, excuse me. Yes, he is. He's among them. But he is 6'10". So that's good. That addresses the size. Remember, Malik Brown, 6'8", playing center. And he is an excellent defender. Excellent defender. He had over 3 blocks per game in the Ivy League last year. And that was #1 by a wide margin. Outstanding around the rim. And he averaged 8 points and 7 rebounds. Now, he is not someone who's going to space the floor. He cannot hit a free throw to save his life. And I know that if Syracuse were to get him, we're going to be upset when he misses those clutch or those big free throws late in the game. Or maybe he's not even going to be in the game down the stretch because he can't shoot free throws. But he does provide size, he provides defense, and he can give you a little bit of scoring as well as rebounding. And I know he only averaged 7 rebounds last year, but that was in 23 minutes per game. What does that tell you? Well, if you give him more minutes, he'll probably get a few more rebounds. So Justice Ajabo, the center from Harvard, I think he would be an excellent fit for this team. He would move Naheem McLeod to the backup center, and that is McLeod's ideal role. That's what he was at Florida State. And I wouldn't say you have the best center tandem in the country or in the ACC, but I would say it's about average if you were to get this kid and compare him with McLeod. It's about average at that point. Next guy I want to list here, this guy is a power forward, but because of his size, he might be able to play a little bit of center too. Javon Porter from Pepperdine. He is currently the #1 transfer available right now, according to On3. He's listed as 6'11" on the team website. So maybe he can play a little bit of center like I mentioned. Last year, he averaged 16 points and 6 rebounds a game. So this guy can score the basketball and he can get you a few rebounds. But more importantly, I know he didn't shoot the ball well from 3 last year. He was less than 30%. But the year before, he was at 35%. I did the math for you guys. I looked up the stats for him. He is a career 33% three-point shooter. And I know that doesn't sound significant. I know it doesn't sound significant. But he's 6'11" as a power forward / center that can get you 30+% efficiency from the three-point line. That's called floor spacing right there. You don't need your big men to be the greatest shooters in the world. But if they can get you 30-something%, that's massive. So I think a guy like Javon Porter, I think a lot of teams are going to be in on this guy. He's the number one transfer available right now. And of course, more players are going to become available. Players are going to come off the market as well. Some of the Syracuse guys are going to leave maybe, and there might be new changes to what Syracuse needs. There might be changes to it. Those are just two guys for now that can, I think, address the size problem, the center problem, and the rebounding problem. And coming up next, we're going to talk about how Syracuse can address the shooting problem and what players fit that profile. When you're hiring for small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And guys, I use LinkedIn all the time to find available opportunities because LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make that process easier. They can just launch the feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. It's Locked On Syracuse, and I'm Jackson Holzer, and we're going over my wish list for Syracuse basketball's offseason this year with the transfer portal opening today. It's actually already opened. So what Syracuse needs, we addressed that early. We said they need shooting and they need size to fix their rebounding problem, whether that is through a true center or that is maybe getting another power forward. I know Donnie Freeman's coming in, but hey, you can never have enough size and you can never have enough shooting in the game of basketball. We went over some players like Justice Ajabo from Harvard and Javon Porter from Pepperdine. These are guys who can help fix that problem with size. And now let's talk about shooting. Who are some players that Syracuse can get in the transfer portal right now that can completely fix the shooting problem? Because this team is not a great shooting team. They were lower half of the ACC in three-point shot. And hey, again, you can never have enough shooters. First guy that I have listed here is Houston Millett from Pepperdine. He's a guard. Last year, he shot 41% from the three-point line. How about that? 41%. You would instantly come in, assuming Chris Bell stays, and be one of the two best shooters on the team. He is more of a two guard, so I don't know exactly how that would work. He's not really a Judah Mintz replacement because, again, that's something that Syracuse does need to keep in mind is if Judah Mintz were to leave, how do they address the issue, right? How do you address the problem? How do you fix it? I don't think Millett is necessarily that guy because he's more of a shooting guard, and that's currently anchored down by J.J. Starling, and I think Starling is a better player. But this is a guy who can shoot, and he's the number 3 transfer available right now on On3. And I've said it over and over again. If this guy wants to play for you, you don't turn him down. He can shoot the basketball, right? If he was not a great shooter, if Millett was, say, like 32%, I'd say, what's the point in adding another guard that's 6'5"? Yeah, he can't really play point guard, though, which is what Syracuse would need if Judah Mintz leaves. He's not going to start over Starling, so what's his role? Would he come off the bench? Well, that's Quadir Copeland right now, the main guy, so what happens, right? But he could shoot 41%. So whether Judah Mintz stays or leaves, this is a guy that I think Syracuse should definitely target. You can never have enough shooting in basketball. And again, there were plenty of games this year where Syracuse had just been adequate from the three-point line. They probably would have won the game. So that's my rant on Houston Millett and why that he should be a target, even though he's not a position of need. Jacob Cruz from UT Martin is listed as a guard, but he is 6'7", so perhaps he can play more in the small forward role. He is the number 2 transfer available right now. He averaged 19 points and 8 rebounds as a 6'7" guard/forward at UT Martin. So, some of these players, I said, they can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right? Javon Porter can shoot over 30% from the three-point line, and he's 6'11". So there you go. You got more shooting, and you got more rebounding right there, and you got more size. Jacob Cruz can get you 8 rebounds a game at UT Martin. And I haven't even mentioned what he shoots from the three-point line, which is 41% last season. What can he do? He can get you 19. He can get you 8 rebounds, so he can rebound the basketball. And he can shoot. I take that. And I know he did it at UT Martin. And I know that playing in the ACC is a lot tougher. But hey, Jacob Cruz is, I wouldn't say he's the perfect basketball player, but when you're looking for a player that addresses everything that Syracuse needs in one guy, and I know it's probably a little bit unfair to put a lot of pressure on him, but he can get you 8 rebounds, and he can shoot 41% from the three-point line. That's impressive. Someone that Syracuse should definitely be all over in the transfer portal right now as I speak. Another guy, and this is more of a replacement if Judah Mintz were to leave. He doesn't play like Judah Mintz at all. And hey, he could still come in and potentially be a backup for this team as well. But Clark Slacker, another guy from the Ivy League, this one from Penn. He is a point guard. He was an all-Ivy selection this year, and he is right now the number 1 point guard available on On3, and he is the number 11 transfer overall. But this team needs shooting. He averaged 18 points a game last year in the Ivy League, and he shot 42% from the three-point line. All 3 players I mentioned shot above 40% last season. And listen, you're not going to get everyone. You're not. But at the same time, imagine adding, one guy with size like Javon Porter and another guy in Clark Slacker who can shoot. Pick any of those 5 available, and there are plenty of other transfers that I have left out. Like Michael Ajayi from Pepperdine makes a lot of sense. He's more of a wing player as well, but you can never have enough guys who can shoot and score the basketball. Clark Slacker, replacement for Judah Mintz if he were to leave. And because he can shoot above 40%, kind of like Millett, I don't really care whether Judah Mintz stays or leaves or whether that the backcourt would all of a sudden become crowded. Doesn't matter to me. You can't have enough depth either. That's something that I haven't even addressed yet, which is depth. You need more bodies. You need more playable bodies. So Slacker, someone who I would certainly target if I'm Syracuse. All of these guys should be on their radar, and I'm sure they are. Whether they will actually get one of them or multiple of them is to be determined. It's the transfer portal right now. It is an ever-changing landscape. We don't know what is going to happen, whether Syracuse players are going to be out the door today. That could happen. And trust me, here on Locked On Syracuse, if we find out that someone is transferring, someone is coming in, we're going to talk about it right here. The plan for tomorrow is to grade Judah Mintz's season, but of course, that could definitely change. And of course, Poll Friday on Friday. Last week, I introduced it as its own segment of the show. I dropped it at 6 p.m. Eastern on Friday, and I think that's what I'm going to do again this week. And I think what I'm going to say in that one is the Poll Friday for this week will be, what is the biggest need for Syracuse? Is it size / a true center? Is it shooting? And the bonus one, which is depth. But I think depth is more of a, it's a volume of players. So I didn't really talk about that too much. I wanted to address more of specific needs and how they can address those ones. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this video, click that like button. And if you really liked it, click that subscribe button and turn on those notifications so you can know immediately when I drop each and every podcast, as well as Poll Fridays and the segment of the week every single week. I'm Jackson Holzer, and I'll talk to you tomorrow with whether it's grading Judah Mintz's season or transfer portal news.